Oh, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Omni Unity. Bienvenue, mesdames et messieurs, à mon émission Omni Unity. We have our guest today, Lisa Farmer. Nous avons aujourd'hui notre invitée, Lisa Farmer. Welcome, Lisa. Bienvenue, Lisa, to Omni Unity channel.
Hello, thank you very much for hosting me, and I'm really excited about being in touch with you and your community tonight.
Thank you. Lisa has a very large bio, so instead of me reading it, I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself, and she'll introduce also what the show is all about tonight. So, Lisa, please, can you share with us about and what we'll be talking today with the audience?
I'm really excited to be able to share my wonderful world of high potential tools, and I myself am an American. I've been living in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland since 1976, so for a very, very long time. So I get to watch different countries develop their sound healing movements. And so sound healing and sound therapy is one of my specialty areas that I work in. And I have lots of different other skill sets that I use in my own way to try to help people move into their own consciousness and place of power, empowerment, to move through these wonderfully exciting times that we're going through right now. And I think it's so special that I get to be in touch with you and all of the wonderful souls that are listening to us while we're doing this or are going to watch it afterwards, where we're closing off one decade and opening up the third decade already. So I think that's very, very special. And Crystall has now the last 30 to 40 years taken more place and more room, not just in our consciousness, but also in our tool set of what we can do to support ourselves, to find our inner balance, and to access those places in a much deeper and, to me, much quicker way, because the frequency is so high, so that we can find our own answers, realize this is the frequency that we came here to be and to move forward to. And what's very special for me is that I work with lots of different tools, but my specialty are also the crystal singing instruments. So I have a whole variety of different crystal tools that I'm fortunate to be able to work with and teach people to use, and also to be able to sell. So I get to do all different kinds of energy aspects that way, so that the people can, every one of us can just find what it is we need to move us forward or move us inward.
Well, thank you for that intro, Lisa. Just to let the people know, where are you based right now? Are you based in Europe or are you based in North America?
Well, right now I'm doing a little bit of a travel journey, so to say. My offices are in Munich, and then by Kitzbühel, which is in Austria. And my mother is 95 years old, and she lives in Spokane Valley. So I'm supporting the Sound Galaxies USA. They're based in Seattle now, to also set up the US market. So I'm helping to doing things and facilitating things right now in a couple of different countries. I also work with lots of different Swiss people and Slovenian dealers that are looking to set up and that are doing sound healing. And one of the goals I'm working on right now is to get my sound healing concept, I call it aura sound, vibrational medicine, to also introduce that to the US now.
That's great. So Lisa, how did you came about in finding or have that interest of going to this field of sound healing or sound therapy? Can you share with us how you came about to into your own personal journey to found that wonderful modality that we know today as sound healing or sound therapy?
Well, I think I was really lucky because my mother is a music teacher, a vocal music teacher. So from the time I was small, we were always doing different things with our voices and using instruments, and just so being in like natural sound healing, because all children use instruments to do things for themselves, even though we wouldn't say that we maybe have the competency we just kind of know naturally if I play this tone or do this strumming, or on an auto harp, or I hit one of those wooden frogs or something. That's all things that are supporting me to either open up or to calm down or release anger, to have fun, to be playful and creative. And my mother also learned a system, which I can't say too precisely about, but she also learned from a Hungarian. It was called Kodai. It was also a certain way to facilitate teaching of music to children. So I grew up kind of like in that environment, and played the oboe and the cello and clarinet myself in orchestra, and loved it. And so also playing an instrument was important to me. And when I moved to Germany in 1976 as an exchange student, then I didn't have the possibility to carry on with musical instruments. So I did different things with my voice and with singing and just trying stuff out. And then it took quite a while, probably another 25 years, before I started working more spiritually with training people. I have my own certification process to teach people to read the auric fields, and started teaching in Germany, in Austria and Switzerland and northern Italy. It's where the German-speaking countries are, to train people to use their own inner clairvoyancy and clairaudio and clairsentient for their own life, no matter which profession they're in, and not to do channeling of external beings, but to go into their own energy household and to be in touch with the higher self level. So I trained lots and lots of people to do that. And then I started working with my voice again. It came through that all of a sudden I should start doing toning and healing work just using my voice. And I was already interested in the frosted bowls. They just started to really become popular. And so I participated in a seminar to learn how to use a frosted singing bowl with my voice. And that's kind of how it got like heavy duty sound healing starting to come up that way. So a lot of the times I would just use my own physical voice to do things, because you can do all of the intonations that you need to do to take care of yourself, to heal yourself, to rejuvenate yourself. And it's also a special bonus if you can also use crystal tools and lots of the other different wonderful instruments that are available to us now.
That's amazing, because now it's becoming very, I think the understanding of the benefits of using bowls and is on the increase now. And from your experience, what have you seen by using your crystal bowls that you have, as the audience can see behind you? What are the benefits that you've seen by using them throughout the years of practice that you had with your clients?
Okay.
Can you share some of the examples of the benefits that you've seen by using that?
Well, I think probably with any sound healing module, that you have really super successes and everybody's a little bit more attuned to a different field. But what with the crystal instruments, what I feel and what I've seen with my clients over the last, now since probably 1997, I've been working with the crystal singing bowls. And it facilitates a much faster integration. What I love about, which you can also do with other instruments, but what I really love about the new generation of crystal singing bowls that are out with the tonality that they have, is you can't play the same tone twice. So what it, to me, helps people do is they get out of the reptilian brain, always trying to repeat to learn. And the crystal singing bowls with the sounds that are made when you play them, you can't repeat it. So it's opening up, it's starting to get us to trust, to use other maybe hemispheres of our brains that are going to teach us and help us to move forward, to move out of fear-based energies, and to move us more into our creative, trusting, ancient wisdom, which is modern wisdom these days. So the singing bowls to me help facilitate that we move into this place of things are always changing. I don't need to repeat to be safe. I don't need to repeat to be competent. I can put myself into the full moment and see where that impulse and that impetus is going to propel me to.
That's interesting. And most people would say, well, what's the difference between the some they call singing bowls from Nepal, from Tibet, they're hammered down, versus the crystal bowl, which is a more higher tech manufacturing process that we use now, maybe in Germany. What is the difference between these two different type of bowls that we see on the market right now, and why are you using only the crystal? And what's the benefit of using the crystal, using the traditional Nepal or Tibetan 7 elements of bowl that's on the market right now? Can you elaborate this?
So I have my own theory about that, so to say, or my own understanding of one of the major differences. Is number one, with the metal bowls, metal is fluid, and so to make it form into something, you have to heat it, flush it, or whatever, so that it makes the shape and it stays the shape. And to me, and this is just me, it doesn't have to be, it's probably not scientifically proven, and maybe other people will have different ideas about it, so everybody needs to discern for themselves. But in that moment, the nature force, the nature spirit that's metal stops at its development. So you can form it into making it have a tone, you can form it into being aligned with the planetary frequency, but then the development stops there. And if you made the bowl in 1980 or 1840, then that's when the being was online the last time, so to say. So that's where its knowledge is. And the way the crystal bowls are produced and the material used, then the crystal still, even through the manufacturing process, because I see how my bowls sometimes they change the colors, and if you have like normal mineral stones, sometimes all of a sudden they start getting their rainbows inside, and even though they've been taken out of the earth and are standing in your house someplace, they keep on in their development. So they're in touch, they're online. I love the computer language these days. It makes things easier to explain. So to me, the element SeO2 or crystal it stays online. So it's representing our skeletal system. We have the being able to put things back onto a day-to-day basis of like what's going on in the planet, which information is coming through, and the crystal beings, even in the new form as the bowl, are still live and functioning to bring us this information, to transform it for us so that we can process it in a different way. So that's, to me, one of my feelings, is that my bowls live in a different way. If I want to bring metal up to line 2019, I'd have to melt it down, reform it, and then it would have the consciousness of 219.
So
that's my little theory.
Well, that's a very interesting, because most people, I think, have never heard that understanding about the difference between the metal and the crystal. Basically, it seems that the crystal kingdom tend to be slightly, maybe, how should you say it, more evolved than the metal kingdom. Would you say that as a way of very simplifying things for people to understand? Or is the process of manufacturing that's entering into account that you just explained to us right now?
It could be both. I mean, metal has its validity and it has its purpose, and it's still depending upon where you are in your development or which things you want to work on. Then metal bowls are very special and very important. But for me, I have a different understanding, and I always say this is my understanding, and it doesn't have to fit everybody's bill there. But also, the earth is moving, we always talk about the evolution of the earth, and she's moving faster on one level. So things are sped up, but we're still aligning bowls to old planetary tones.
Uh,
that were valid a couple hundred years ago, that made sense then, but the earth has gone really dynamic in the last, 50 to 80 years. So to me also, the frequencies they're not the same. It's, to me, it's not maybe the same place. It's a good intention, and it's definitely going to move something with you. But I'm not, for myself and my clients, I'm not convinced that, it's really what's helping us to move forward. How often if I listen to an old tone, which might be beautiful, I'm not saying it's not nice to listen to, but what does it reset in me? What part of my being is it activating? Is it, even if it, all sound healing modules make you feel maybe more relaxed or more in tuned, but is it bringing me into my highest level of being conscious right now? Does it have the possibility to do that when the element itself has kind of like been stuck installed, and then it's tuned to something where, even if you listen to like the tapes of NASA in the meantime, when they go out and do planetary, tapings of things, the planets sound totally different. So is it supporting to sustain something that makes people more comfortable to move forward? Or is it giving them kind of like increasing the old comfort zone? And at the end of the day, it's not helping them to really move forward, to be in a different level of trust and development and creativity and flow. So that's, something that everybody can think and feel about for themselves, because these are just things, these are just like what I've discovered with my clients in the last 30 years of having my business, is that, for example, if somebody really wants to work through the abused inner child, then a lot of times the metal bowls to me can be very supportive there, because they're attuning somebody else to these really old pain levels that keep reoccurring. A lot of inner child work is, it needs to be repetitive in a certain way, so that always a new level of trust, bonding can take place. To me, when I work with the crystal instruments, I'm working with the healed inner child. That's already somebody who's already moving forward. And I'm not saying that is like it's not devaluing somebody or where they are with like their inner growth work. It's just a difference of frequency. The crystal is supporting the child who's the adventurer, who's ready to go out and see the world, and wants to have a bigger part in changing things. It's found its inner comfort. It's found its inner peace. It's moved out of the victim and the let's see, what do you call it? Sometimes, even though English should be my first language, I'm in Germany so long, I sometimes have to think of it. So you have the victim and the victimizer. So it's the crystal instruments move you out of those fields, in my opinion, because more things resonate at the same time. You have all different kinds of tonal levels going on, and just the fact that you can't repeat, it opens up a totally different new field. So that's one of the things that's really exciting to me about the crystal instruments, all of them, no matter if it's a bowl or the singing rods or the tuning forks or the lyra, or there's all different kinds of products out there now. And one of the things I teach in my Aura Sound vibrational medicine concept is to do conflict management and mediation. You can do meditation with the bowls, but I also do, because I have like clarify fights that are going on and conflicts. People are stuck with their terminology and they use words. And as we all know in sound healing, so many shocks bypass our vocabulary, our language part of the brain, and go someplace else. And so when people try to use language to make conflicts, it all has a different context. So one of the things in seminar, when I talk about it, is the word door, for example, D-O-O-R. Having come from an American culture, I was also used to open door policy in the industry, or to having no doors and open space. And a front door was also there to be opened. When I was growing up, at least, things have changed in the US, but back in the old days, you know, the doors, it was like open and you could come and go. And for a lot of Germans, the door is there so that it's closed. You know you've made it in your workplace if you get the corner office with the door you can close. So there's already like a difference. If I'm having a conflict with somebody and I just use the words door, for somebody it was a barrier. They got locked in all the time. For somebody else, they wanted to go out and see the big world and got their fingers pinched in the door. And door hurts. I'm not going to try to go out and have an adventure again. And other people, doors got slammed when people got mad at home. So I have one word and I have no idea what the context is. So when people are trying to clarify things and they use words, then afterwards you do the conflict management with words and language, and then people go back into their head again, and it's always, I should have said this, I should have said that, they said that, I should have said that. And then it's all reset at start. And especially when you use the crystal instruments, everybody gets their voice to use like as one of the tools to do mediation and to do conflict management. You can't repeat the tone. So everybody gets their say. They can do it quietly or more loudly. There's different ways to play a singing bowl to make different sounds with it. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, everything just starts moving into one like sound bath, so to say, with everybody that's involved in the conflict solution. And then at some point in time, it just ebbs and it stopped. Everyone's articulated with the instrument what that was they were feeling. They had their chance to say it and to get it out. And you can't go back and revisit it, because the sound was a sound, and especially with the crystal singing bowls, you can't repeat it. So people tend more, that's my experience, they go more into healing because they feel they were finally heard, they got it out, it was respected, and everybody can move into their own place of being able to move forward with a different power because something's been resolved in a different way. And sound is fantastic that way. Long-standing conflicts are, 20 minutes, 8 minutes, 30 minutes, really quick. So, and people, the whole body, because the sound also moves your whole, we know the water-based system of the human body. So all of those frequencies have been moved in a different way as well, so that the whole system can go in resonance to this new higher state and can sustain it much more.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned about water, because we understand about the fourth phase of water now, and the importance of water as being a medium for transporting or transferring communication from cell to cell. And we understand now, even with the what we call fascia, which is actually we come to understand that it's a crystal network that relays information to the fascia through our organs. And sometimes when people have been traumatized, whatever age group, those traumas are lodged around the fascia in certain organs. And yeah, it seems to me, if it's a crystalline, if the fascia is a crystalline network, that using the crystal bowl is actually a fantastic medium, because it is crystalline already, the crystalline bowl, right? So the transmission of that information would be far more efficient to the fascia crystalline network than your typical metal bowl, right? So it does have an importance using crystalline bowl, and because of the crystalline network in the bowl and in the fascia of the human body. So it's a more like they understand each other. It's much easier to use that type of bowl technology They're using, like you just mentioned, the typical ancient metal bowl. And since we enter a time of on the planet where the frequencies are changing on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, like you said, we have to keep in times with the current frequencies. And the crystals tend to be in the flow with things, right? They tend to evolve as the frequencies evolve. You know, it's very interesting. So the fascia, as being a sensory information organ, is a highway where you can transmit information. But that's Crystall Network. And the singing bowl can be a fantastic medium to assist that transmission or to let go of certain blockages in certain organs, right, that have been held there maybe in vitro or at the age of 4 or 5 or 20 or 30. It's really fantastic, you know. And then we understand also the epigenetic overlay that holds some of these reverse programs can be released by using crystal balls also. So I think we're barely beginning to scratch the surface in understanding the potential using our own vocal cords to create, but using also tools as the crystal balls that you just mentioned. And in your years of experience, have you found that science is slowly catching up to the importance of the understanding of sound? That it's finally saying, oh yes, it has its merits. Oh yes, it has its place. Have you found some research that collaborate all your years of experience so far that would support your work and what you're doing right
now? Well, I think there's more things that are taking place, but I don't follow that field so much because I've been lucky to have always moved into a space from maybe where I came from business, because I used to work in semiconductor and computer companies. So like I've been crystal in a different way for a long time. And there's always the story where they say the crystal singing bowls came back into our consciousness because of the semiconductor tubing. So there's lots of different stories around how the crystal bowls actually started to become popular and famous again. But since I was always in the computer and the semiconductor industry before I started my own company in 1992 to do personal training and self-development and teach people to use their clairvoyancy, that's when I started on that endeavor, was already 1992. So I sometimes follow the sciences, but I've grown into things, and I've always had clients and customers and patients that have like moved in the flow with me as well. So I've been really lucky probably that I don't have to try to prove anything to anybody for people to allow what we work on together, for it to give them healing and for them to support them and where they're moving to. But I know I do fall sometimes a little bit some of the things that go on. And the person I work together with, who also produces the crystal singing rods, which we can do show and tell afterwards, and I'll show you those. I know that he's also having his tuning rods. I think the Emoto people that do the water crystals, he's having his rods also played, and you can see how the crystals form and things, you know, the clarity comes up like that. So there's a lot of things, and I know there's a lot of things that are going on with oncology and the heart frequency ratios and things like that. But those are all kind of things that like I said, I've been really lucky up until now. I don't need any of that to support or grow my business right now. So I don't spend a whole lot of time or effort on it.
So basically, you're really getting information to the experiences that you have with your clients, and that's how you understand the efficacy of your bowls and what they're doing to the fascia network or the aura, helping to cleanse any traumas that may be lingering in the fascia network or in the aura or in the chakras. And can you just share with us, I mean, what would be a typical crystal bowl session with a client? Would you have them sit in a chair, lying on a massage table? Would you actually put the bowl above them or below them? Or would you just put a bowl on their head and hit? I mean, there's different ways that people do it. So can you just give us a very short summary what would be a typical type of session when someone would come in for your services, so people have understanding of what to expect?
Okay, well, the I teach all of, you can do all of those different things that you just mentioned and a whole bunch of things more when you're playing the bowls. So when I teach, I teach all of those things. And when I have my clients that come in who want to have an individual sound healing session, then I prefer to have my clients on the massage table. And I like to put bowls underneath it. I also have one or two other instruments that I like to use when I'm doing the sound healing sessions, and I call them our sound sessions, or crystal sound balancing journeys. That's something else I can talk about. It's a different process. But for the normal one, I put people that they can lie down so that I can have sound underneath them. And I also put sound sometimes in the corners because I'm lucky I have different bowls that I can use. So I go into the higher self level, or the inner intelligence, being in contact with my client when the person is here, to say, okay, what is it do we need to facilitate right now? What do we want? What are we going to work on? How are we going to work on it? And I ask which bowls feel comfortable working with this person. And I also ask the client to say, okay, look around and tell me which bowls you think are going to support you in this session. With the crystal singing bowls, there's also all different kinds of theories out there. So sometimes I think you have to be intuitive. I mean, I'm lucky. I have my clairvoyancy. I use it when I work, and train people also to use their clairvoyancy so they feel more comfortable when they're doing their sound healing things. But then sometimes some clients need the bowl directly on them, and there's different ways to play the crystal bowl and to move it so that it's in a total process and flow with people. And sometimes people, it's just enough because if you play a crystal singing bowl and you have it in your hand and you move it over someone, I mean, you can just feel the vibrations all around the bowl anyway, so you don't necessarily have to place it on the person's body to make something happen. The sound bowls that I like to use from Sound Galaxies are the ones I use the most. It's a German company who works together to have their bowls manufactured. And the coloring is done by Swarovski in Austria. We're one of their preferred partners. Excuse me. And so there's different ways to play the bowls, and I like trying to envelope people in the sound. So I like having it underneath them as well, and to have the music coming up sometimes from the side of the room. So I might put 2 sets, a 3 set on one side of the room and a 3 set on another side of the room, and then I just let it play and swing out and see what change and moves, and maybe have it come from the other side and play and change and come out. So there's lots of different ways, and it depends upon who's here at the end of the day, what I end up doing. So you can do, a whole lot. And if, people are out there and they say, well, I only have one bowl, there's so much you can do with in just the one bowl. So I'm lucky. I get to have lots of different things in usage, but it's also with one bowl you can really facilitate. So maybe some of the things, like if you're a one bowl person right now, no matter if you have a frosted bowl, those are like the white ones, the old crystal bowls. And there's different generations of singing bowls out there from different manufacturers. But one of the things, for example, that you can do is that you can, play the bowl, get your cauldron going, so to say. And then you can stand with your legs over the bowl and have the sound going up through you. There was about 30 years ago, somebody in the US who experimented a lot with sound, a sound healer, and she worked out that the tone B, boy, for the Europeans watching, it's an H over here. We have different, sometimes the notes are a wee bit different. And that helps to facilitate breaking up heavy metals and toxins, Novocaine and anesthesia and moving it out of somebody's system. So it does like a little bit of an ultrashall technique through the frequency. So having a good sized, using a good sized bowl and having it in the tone B, and then playing it and standing over it, then, it just kind of like cleans your system really well. With any bowl, you can, sit in front of it and feel the, things coming towards you as the vibrational swinging towards you. You can also put it on your hand and move it up and down if you want to. You just have to feel comfortable and safe using your bowl that way. I love having the bowls on my hand. The sound gets to me totally different and deeper. I can do more variations with it. But it's also, really good to be able to just stand over it. And it's like having a shower in the reverse order, so to say. I know people do place the bowls, but that's something that, I think you have to be a little bit careful with when, putting it over somebody's head and playing it. But that's also something that if it's done gently, then it just makes people clear really more quickly.
So it's very interesting that you mentioned about the bowls, about detoxification, because we understand now more and more about the trauma being lodged in the fascia crystal network. We understand about being lodged in our organs or musculature or in the aura. But most people would probably say, well, we've never heard about using singing bowls, especially crystalline singing bowls, to actually detox. That's something most people would be not aware of. So have you noticed the effects in your clients when using that for detox, or have you had an experience with your clients to use your crystalline bowl for detox?
I've had lots of experiences with clients having really good success. But also, to be fair to some of the metal things, if you have a metal bowl tuned in B, like boy, then that also supports to be able to move the filters out. Why B works this well, I haven't, spent time and effort putting into it to try to prove why it would be that one tone that does it so well. I just have seen it work that way. And I had a lot of experience when I had to have a long time ago the amalgam fillings taken out, and I had my whole mouth was full of fillings, so I had to do detoxification, and that was when I had just gotten in touch with sound healing, and I read the article by this woman in the U.S., and then I got one of my first two big singing bowls was B. And I played it, and I kept playing it, and also playing it with the groups and playing it with me and doing it in my free time, and just I had a really good feeling it was supporting me. And then I went back to my dentist who was testing me kinesiology to see how the detox was coming on and whatever. And within a couple of week period, they were totally frustrated, excited, strange things happening, because all of a sudden because at the beginning they said I was going to have to detox for like a year and a half to almost 2 years to get it all out of my system. And after working with the B, like crystal singing bowl, within like about 6 or 7 weeks, it was when they tested me, it wasn't there. So however that part worked, those are the things when I see the difference for people live, or I know how I feel. And then also lots of years later, I had to have the provisorium I had put in, which was plastic. I was getting second degree cavities, so I had to have all of that removed and taken out. And the first, for whatever reasons, maybe it was to have the learning experience again or to make the experience again, was that I had to have Novocaine or anesthesia in there, and also a different kind of filling put in. And I reacted really badly to the anesthesia. Like I was just kind of like totally whacked and beam out. But in the meantime, I know there's cocaine in most of the anesthesias that are used in the teeth area, at least in Europe. So you had like that substance, you know, in there kind of knocking you out. And the first 2 times I had a couple of things refilled. I forgot I was not feeling good, and I just went to lay down, and I'm not used to not feeling good, but I didn't think about go get your bowl, girl, and play it. So like the first 2 visits, I was like just really 2 days afterwards, still struggling and feeling bad. And after the 3rd visit, I came home and I was kind of like really upset that I was feeling so bad again. And all of a sudden it was, just go play the bee bowl. So I went in and I got the bowl and I played it for like about 20 minutes. And all of a sudden you really heard it go, and it was kind of like, and it was over, and I felt really good. And I knew whatever it was, if it was the being of whatever the substance was, you know, or the astral part of the substance, or heaven knows what it was, that it was just totally dispersed out of my system. So, and I've worked with lots of clients now with this, or like if they have also breakages with bones and things like that, the high quality of the crystal instruments also helps that the nerve endings talk to each other more quicker and recommunicate on a different frequency level, and breaks, and also things happening in the jaw. Things take place a lot more quickly and more easily with regenerating and repair and things like that. So I see that with my clients over the last 15 years now, using the different kinds of instruments and tools. But I've never sat down and made the conscious effort to do it like really empirically.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that your higher self got you that information, saying yes, use the when you say B, that's the node B, right? Just so people understand, it's the node B, right, for the crystalline ball to be used. And it's just, I mean, that's such an interesting experience that you had with your detox process, and that's something we never talk, or you never hear that much. You hear about the traumas being healed with sound and with light, but not that much about detox. So that's very interesting for you to have that experience with yourself and with your clients, you know. And
Because what's also lovely too is, like, you know, if you have your singing bowl, then you can put, of course, water in the singing bowl and play it, and then you're also, you know, creating your own essence, you know, with that note and that sound and that frequency, so that you can, you know, drink the water that way, and, you know, use it for cooking, and also like to, you know, like spray around, you know, get a little spray bottle, and to be able to spray like inside your mouth and the gums, or to put it in your belly button, because for a lot of people, the belly button is still one of the biggest shock areas that we have, because it's like the first scar that we have when that gets removed, the umbilical cord. So also to put, you know, like the essence in there, or to hold the singing bowl over the navel, or to put the tuning forks, the bottom of them, they're made in different ways. And then you can hold them right to the navel, and that also helps to really move energy out. And since the solar plexus also, you know, helps us release from emotional body and mental body, and that we feel the connection to the spiritual body that way, then it's also a really good starting place, you know, to really focus with the crystal instruments sometimes for people, is to go right in there and help them to feel that they're moving old energy out, and also with the moving, being able to then accept that a higher frequency is coming in. And that's what I love about sound. Principally, it makes no difference which instrument in that sense. When people do sometimes like esoteric tools, and they take things out of people's energy field, if it's not, if new energy is not brought in, people tend to try to get back on, you know, maybe what they just processed out and off. and they invite it back in, or they bring back something in that's really similar because they're just used to having that feeling in the aura. And when you work with sound, sound fills itself up, so to say. It transports the lower frequency out and fills you up with a higher clean frequency. So that's something that's, to me, is really special there too, because you've done the cleansing work then, but you've also done like supporting the immune system to have more freshness and vitality again, because you have a higher frequency that's already been installed, just because that's what sound does.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's beautiful to understand that we can use this crystal ball to actually work on releasing the traumas within the aura, within the crystal network of the fascia or different parts of our body. Then using also as a means to, like you just said, cleansing the body. And also it can be used also to cleanse the environment that you live, your house, your apartment. So it's not just for you. You're actually being of service to yourself, your fellow tenants or your fellow neighbors that can actually benefit from this by you playing this at home or in your apartment. So I think it's a win-win co-creative environment that by having these crystal bowls, it's a magnificent way to bring that loving frequency, not just to your body, but to your surrounding, even to nature, to the trees, right? So it's like the living, dancing, co-creative sound journey, you know? So
what I do is when I teach as well, and these are the things that's just where I'm coming from. So everybody's entitled to have also every time their own opinion to things. But for me, it's really important to, like when I play my crystal singing bowls, if I'm in a space, like living in a house and other people are living above me or below me, then I ask that the higher self level of those around me, that what I'm doing with a singing bowl is only used by them, utilized by them, if it supports their highest level of being. So I'm not like forcing people to take whatever frequencies I'm supplying, but if it's something that fits well for their development or for their like room hygienics fields or whatever else, then I always ask that, you know, that they use it, and if they don't, that it's just neutral for them. So I think that's always really important too, because that's sometimes the things that over the years I've been, I kind of, it upsets me sometimes because so many people are trying to do good, but they're totally invasive, and because it works good for me, then I think it has to work good for everybody. And so I'm making them, you know, take whatever it is I'm doing, rather it's their highest good or not. So since all the metal bowls, but also especially the crystal bowls, then since those are also to me still living beings, then I want us to be in a good state with each other. So I always ask for everyone's higher best and to the harm of none, that the instruments, when they get played, how to use the frequencies so that nobody's like forced. Because I think a lot of times there's some people who are like retrograde because they constantly have people in their environment doing prayers or other kind of work, and there's lots of ways that prayers are set up these days. So it's like trying to like force humanity to move someplace. And if people aren't ready for that, they can't carry that. And when then they start collapsing, and systems start falling down, tumbling around again around them, then they have no, they lose the trust in the spiritual quality to want to live that and sustain that. And so also one of the things that's special to me with the Sound Galaxy Bowls, with the company that I work together with is, and however the spiritual world or the nature spirit world works it out, you know, we kind of like leave it up to them. But when we have a production done, we ask that exactly the SO2 beings who want to be our Sound Galaxy Bowls, they find a way into that production.
So it's like if I understand correctly, the manufacturing process is more like a co-creative endeavor that you have with the elemental kingdom and those that are involved in the manufacturing process. This is very unique compared to other manufacturing processes that we know around the world. So is that what Sound Galaxy is all about?
So that's one of the important, to me, also one of the important differences, because there could be a lot of little smaller companies that are out there who maybe have set their intention that way. But I know that we do that already when we ask for the bowls that that we need for our production, that we're already giving out that call, so that we really have that quality. And I think when we get the bowls and you hear them, then there's already a different level of quality there. And the other thing too is what I also find really special too is that when the bowls have then been produced and they come, then they're like in a clear, clear shape. And it was just a trend that started at some point in time in the crystal world, so to say, that a bowl has to have color or has to have this or has to have that for it to, be marketable. So there's to me some old qualities, that are hanging around in there about the crystal bowl, but the bowl itself has its own beautiful sound. No matter what it looks like, it has its own specialty sound that it wants to provide and share with the world. And with the Sound Galaxy bowls, there's usually two different people who play the bowls when they come from the manufacturer. And then the bowls are asked, okay, from the kind of like themes that Sound Galaxies offer, which I can mention a couple of them in a minute or so. What does the bowl, now it's been like co-created, okay, so we're hoping we have the beings that said yes to our process with us, and then we say, okay, and what is the profession that you want to be for us? What is your calling? What kind of, which type of bowl do you want to be in our system? And so it's interesting because they would test then the bowls, they play the bowls, and then they put like on a little slip of paper what the bowl says, its calling should be. And somebody else plays the bowl, they don't look at that, and they're doing the asking, and usually like 9 times from 10, it's the same answer. So I always find that really good, that there's, the bowl gets to do what it thinks it's here to do. And then it gets the vaporizing process from Swarovski in Austria to give it the beautiful color. And the vaporizing is on the inside, so that when you play the outside of the bowl, it's you're not taking away from the substance, or you don't lose the color or anything. And so it's very clean, so to say, non-toxic bowls, which are really important too. So that's really special. And so that's one of the things. And sometimes, like if people get 2 different inputs, then maybe it's a mixed bowl, and then it wants to be a little bit maybe of an oxygen bowl, and maybe it wants to be a little bit of a heaven's door. So it combines things there, and then you have like a one-off special bowl. And if we're talking like about Sound Galaxies, every company has a different way how they do their pricing. And so Sound Galaxies has the pricing that you pay by size. It doesn't matter what the bowl feels its calling is to do, that you just pay. The sizes have different prices, and we have the bowls are like 16 centimeter, 18 centimeter, 20 centimeter, 22 centimeter, 24, 26, and 30 centimeter. 30 centimeters is the largest bowl that we've been able to produce, and that it's stable. So it's very, very lovely.
Well, it's nice to hear that it seems that the new manufacturing process is not just making things, but it's okay to create new tools that we have, but now with a new understanding that we're here to co-create with the elemental kingdom. So what can we do to be of service to humanity as you're manufacturing human facilities with the elemental kingdom? So it's a beautiful way to co-create new instruments or new bowls that we've never done before. So it's very nice to hear that that a company like Sound Galaxy is taking this very seriously. and the manufacturing process, it's taking this into consideration. And just before going more into these bowls and how they're made and what's the importance of using a certain type of elements, and I'd like to come back. You mentioned about, I'd like to, if you can elaborate about children, people that have children as a family. What would a family benefit by having, if they cannot afford a set of crystal balls, a practitioner, but having one bowl, but for the family to enjoy? I mean, can you share with us the benefit of a family having a crystal ball for their children?
Okay. Well, so you can do lots of things with lots of different instruments. So I'm not, I love my crystal. So I'll go back the benefits I see from crystal. But for me, it's coming from sound healing and a love of music. I think it's, you know, it's very special that children have an opportunity to be in rapport with instruments when they're growing up. In the Aura Sound training that I do, the vibrational medicine sound healing concept to learn to be a sound healer, then I also use things, I don't know, do you know boom whackers?
No, I've
They're
never heard that.
plastic tubing. You can check that out on YouTube because they have some fantastic percussionistic things you can do with the tubes. But in the meantime, it's really interesting because I'll have children come sometimes to the seminars or come with their parents for the individual sessions. And all the kids in the kindergartens now, they know what the boom whackers are, and the parents don't know them yet. But they're plastic tubes. They look like a xylophone. They can be used individually, and they are color-coded and from the tone scale. So you have sound healing plus color therapy working together, and you can use it to like a little bit, you know, move energy in your body to get things going again. You can move them together, and then they have really elaborate things with groups throwing the instruments and playing them. So that's also something that when I have like my anger releasement seminar, I use a lot of the boom whackers too, so that people can, you know, just really get the energy out that way. With the crystal instruments, I think what's important about being able to have those at home is that they help, especially the younger generation that's come, like especially after 1999, to remember why they're here, so that they don't, you know, they have a lot more things to deal with than we did when we were growing up. You have all of the different, you know, it's difficult topic now these days with to vaccinate, not to vaccinate. What does the vaccination do? What does it not do? So that's a whole political issue there. But you have that being vaccine that's in people's, also in people's lives. So it's also about being able to help the children to move back. What is their original frequency? Also being able to feel that and to not lose faith, and then to also not be like stuck in the school system where things sometimes are, you know, they're being forced to constantly just memorize, 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 memorize. And so it helps them to release all of this pressure in their head that's there, to move them back into the field where they feel like connected again, where they get more creative, where they can learn more easily, where by playing the instrument, it takes off like all the different kinds of maybe having to sit so long in, you know, at school and everything. And like if you put in like some water into the bowl and then you play it, you make like little tsunamis and tidal waves, so it like spurts out water at you. So it's like refreshing after the end of the day to go in and to have, you know, just to play and play with the water and the playfulness of the water and the bowl to move things. Then it's also something that's special too, that you can use it in one direction, use it in the other direction, switch hands, and then do things together. And it's also, you know, the kind of like the singing bowl Feldenkrais of, you know, getting things reconnected. And I have 2 little tuning rods also that also work with the binaural. to get that moving again, that both the brain hemispheres work well together. So to me, having the crystal instruments at home, it's a way to communicate. You know, you can say, okay, how was your day? And somebody can play it and you don't get lost in the words. And people aren't trying to do like judgment, but you know, you can play the bowl together just to say and pass it around. This is how I felt today. And then you have the tone going there and people communicate on a different level.
Well, that's great. I think especially now with a lot of autism and a lot of challenges with the vaccinations, and being too much in the intellectual and not coming from the heart space. I think anyone, be a family or individual on this planet, can really benefit from this sound healing technology to get them more into their heart space. And like you said before, to get them linked with their higher self. Like not with a guru, not with an astral entity, not with an ET entity, but to understand that we are magnificent spiritual beings. We need to reconnect with our higher self, with our soul or our Atma, and we can download that information directly from source itself, no third party. And this is so important for humanity to grasp at this moment now. We're entering fantastic shifts on this planet, from economic challenges to environmental to food challenges, security, and even with the challenges of meeting other beings from different star systems, extraterrestrial, that Dr. Greer has talked about, and many others have talked about right now, about secret space program. So there's a lot coming at humanity in this moment right now. So it seems to me that the crystal ball, the way you've talked, is such a wonderful tool to help the individual, the family, the community. Like the Native Americans have used the powwow system to get around and co-create with the elementals and the community. Such as the new era of crystals and understanding of co-creating with the elemental kingdom can be a wonderful way to bring people together, you know, having little parties, crystal ball parties, or chanting with the crystal ball. Such a wonderful tool for people to have at this moment during this great change on planet Earth, and being exposed to a greater community. So we're moving from our neighborhood in space to a greater community in the galaxy. Understand that we're not the only ones here. There are many other beings, many different extraterrestrial, that in different star systems in the Milky Way galaxy and in Andromeda and even Triangulum galaxy. That it's such a big, big place to play. And by finding ways to heal ourselves, using crystal balls, and to cleanse ourselves, we'd be in a better position to co-create together as a planetary race, and also to make the steps to make contact with these beings. So there's a lot coming at humanity, and it's such a wonderful tool that manufacturing companies like Sonic Galaxy are taking this very seriously in a way of understanding co-creating versus competing. So this is beautiful. And this leads very nicely to, can you share with us here the importance of using the typical crystals? Where is it? How is it being used, or you have different, like you just mentioned before, coloring agents that you've used, you mentioned before, different shapes, so can you just have a summary for the listeners, the size and shape and the manufacturing process, the importance of using certain type of crystals, because there's so much out there and people tend to be confused with all different companies. And so can you just share with us your affiliation with Sonic Galaxy, and why Sonic Galaxy very committed to offer the best quality and the co-creative understanding of the benefits with the elemental kingdom.
Okay. There's lots of different qualities of the crystal and the materials that are being used. And right now, I'd say my understanding from the worldwide perspective is that the best substance, so to say, still comes from the US, like with South Carolina or with Arkansas, that it's still the purest, quartz to be used, and it's not, a lot of times things are radiation exposed these days, depending upon who's doing and how the production is being done. And so we're lucky that we're working together with a company that does the actual production. We ask for the production to be done, but we're not the actual production company, so to say. We're working with, and they're out of the old glass flowing tradition in Germany. That's, so to say, the liaison companies that we work with for them to do the actual physical productions. So it's what they say, it's like at the level that they use for when they have to do making really special crystal for like medicine products and things like that. It's the same category. But that's also a part of the process that the owner of the company works with. So it's probably, I should be embarrassed to not have 100% to be able to say how things are done. But that's also something right now that's not like also overly important for my part of how I do my part of the business. But there's a lot of different different kinds of levels of quality that are out there. And so it is getting a little bit difficult to say, okay, where are you getting, where is it a clean quality that you feel comfortable with? Where does radiology, you know, where does it get radioactive with different things? So sometimes you just have to, you know, be aware and feel for yourself which is the company you want to be working together with. And what I like about Sound Galaxies right now is just the sound to me. The way the bowls are made, they have, it's just to me a more gentler sound. When working with my clients here, or with the customers and patients, because I also have a license for psychology in Germany. So when I work with like also the patients when they're here, then sometimes the bowl, it will play only really quietly for somebody. And sometimes it doesn't want to play at all, because that's not what it is that they need right now that's going to support them and make it feel better, or they've had already so much impulse that it plays just really quietly and gently, even if the person really wants to like have something make a lot of noise. So the bowls, the way the consciousness, I think, goes in by asking, you know, asking the beings themselves to support us, that they have just a lot more gentler, supportive structure. And for example, sometimes with people, when they come and they want to buy a bowl, then they fall in love optically with the bowl and think, oh, this is it. And then the bowl just refuses to totally play for them. It's like, no, there's something here that's going to support you much better. And so sometimes what I do with people when they come is that I put a blindfold, and then they listen to the sound, or I say, okay, open your heart, and where do you feel, which bowl is calling to you right now? Third from the left on the shelving, or second from the top, or whatever. So which one do you feel really, you know, trying to be in contact with you, because that will be the support system or the co-creation. It's always about also being able to be able to expand and move forward with different things as well. So it's not always just about doing the trauma test, but also having the courage, you know, to be going out and doing and saying what you need to do. And I think the crystal bowls, also the Sound Galaxies bowls, are very lovely to get people into that communication with themselves, to trust themselves, to be able to say what they want to say, and to be able to say it with the wording so that it's much more accepted. So I think all of that is part of the process that goes into the bowls there. So
I was going to ask you.
Like most bowls these days, unfortunately in the German market as well, all of like the glass blowing companies, for the most part, they've invested and moved their productions into China. But not every Chinese company is the same. So if you go into the big, huge companies there, and sometimes I need the frosted singing bowls for clients as well. There's almost nobody making those in Europe anymore. For a while they were being made in France, or some were being made in Germany or Austria, and all of that production is too expensive now. So most of those companies have gone and done partnering with different kinds of Chinese companies. And we're really lucky to be working with like a middle-sized company that has grassroots there still, that also like has a spiritual message in it. It's not just there to do like, mass production for the cheapest price, and if it hour bashes you because there's the sounds off or whatever. We're really lucky to work with a company who also has a different mentality and philosophy. So
Well, that's nice to hear that. So Solid Glass is US based company.
no, it's German.
German.
It's a German-based company. So it's the owner of the company is nearby Munich, and she works together with the German. I'm not sure what it's called. I just call it the old glass blowing technology. I would have to look in my little dictionary to see what the word is in English for that kind of. It does like the glass production and the crystal glass production and crystal bottles or all of those kind of things. There's a certain word for it in German. Never had to say it in English up until now.
So the crystal, they actually the company Sunglass, do they use the crystals from Arkansas that you just mentioned? Is that where they get their source?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina, okay. So I mean, they have a very strict protocol as to where they get their crystals, right? So I mean, the level of consciousness and the way of awareness for a company in the 21st century is very impressive. To really to find a company who's really conscientious and co-creates with the elemental kingdom, that has a lot to say. So that's really amazing. And I'd like to go into just a little bit of the tuning forks. I know it's becoming very interesting that people talk about the traditional aluminum tuning forks. Now you have the crystal tuning forks. And so in your experience, what is the main difference between what we've been knowing the last, like from Dr. Bollier from the 80s to now about the aluminum tuning forks? And now what's becoming more and more popular or getting popularity is the crystal tuning forks. Can you share with us? And also, if I remember correctly, you have a set of crystal tuning forks that a V formation instead of typical U. So can you share with us the difference and what's the difference between aluminum and crystal once again, and why the shape, what we see now, the difference of the typical U shape versus the V shape?
Okay, so it's very interesting if you watch the trend now with the metal tuning forks. One, I think they're still depending upon also what I do in my sound healing. So like I always say, I'm not just like a total crystal snob. Everything has its place in the sound healing process. And the metal tuning forks are still in the place of they're more financially affordable for a lot of people, whereby there too, if you want to have, really good forks, they're also, you also pay a good price to have them. So if you go into the high-end metal aluminum market, then you're also giving out a lot of money for good forks. But the trend in the metal tuning forks now is to be able to have something that you can put on top of the fork on the bottom part of it, where you also on the handle, so to say, where there's also a stone attached to it. So they're doing like their own kind of crystal mineral support fix moving into the future with that also to try to integrate both worlds. What I like about the ones that are made out of the same substance as the crystal tuning, the crystal singing bowls, is just also to me, the frequency is higher. It brings back a different kind of sound resonancy to people that moves them, and this is just my opinion or what I've noticed with my clients. It moves people more quickly into a higher consciousness level. So it supports them in reopening things that they've closed off because they haven't had the opportunity to be able to share that. So they've never truly lost it. We don't disconnect, but we're not aware that we're conscious that the connection is there for us. And with the crystal tuning forks, my experience is it It activates again all of our the crystalline elements in the body, and also just this knowledge of moving back into these higher spheres where things are always less heavy duty material. And even though the metal tuning forks move things, facilitate extremely well, releasing shock, moving things, it's still a metal. And we're moving back into this level of everything becoming more crystalline again, which also means certain elements, the new kinds of stones that the earth brings out when she's showing us new things to use, they're also a lot lighter, a lot more playful. So they're grounding us in a different way. And to me, the crystal tuning forks support people. Sometimes the metal forks, they move people into old grounding patterns. So they're kind of, sometimes I have to think my process in English because I do most of my sound healing speaking also in German. So, but it moves people. Sometimes they get grounded in a way that makes them sometimes more inflexible, or where they start to rehash again. And with the crystal forks, my experience is that it moves people while processing through the past. It always opens up something to them that where they're like trying to remember their future. It's kind of like because there's so much. I mean, for a lot of people, what the crystal instrument does for me is that a lot of things have changed on the planet. For a lot of people who came onto this planet before 1972, there was a big I don't even know what to call it. There was a huge issues that took place, and where we were in a lot of jeopardy for things to really go pear-shaped, and that was circumvented. But it changed a lot of the way that we're moving forward. So for people who incarnated before 1972, they're always trying to remember why they're here, but it could be that's no longer valid, that what it is that their special mission is, their special journey is that they want to be doing and that they want to be co-creating. They can't go back and say, why did I come? And to me, a lot of the metal instruments and the older instruments, they're always taking people back into this old space. And the question is, and what the crystal instruments do for me is, why are you still breathing today? Because if you're still breathing in here and now, there's something that you're here to do. And the crystal instruments help you to unlock that, because it's not trying to make you remember why was I born? It's trying to help you remember, you're awake this morning, congratulations, you're here. What are you going to do with the energy that you're here? And so for people who came after 1972 in their own crystal matrix that they just have in their energy field, they're a little bit, it's easier for them to go online and to work out a little bit better what chances do they still have, or where is their path maybe moved to. And also then again in 1983, or with the harmonic convergence in 86, and then in 1999 when we had this huge eclipse that took place, it changed a lot of things. So it's no longer trying to go back in through spiritual processes to why did I come, why was I born, but like I said, the crystal instruments help you understand why you're still breathing, and what is the potential now. And since our world is moving more quickly, and when we move into the higher spheres of being and oscillate third, fourth, fifth, sixth, back, fourth, where everybody else, whatever people's numbers are, where they think they're going with their spiritual development, that's all over the place with the different systems people have. But what the tuning forks help us do is to be able to move back and forth gracefully so that we don't have like a psychotic behavior coming in with being disoriented and disjointed. That means I can feel much more clearly where I am. And it also gives me the possibility then what's changed, because on some days you've got some players in a certain dimension or sector, and maybe 3 days later something's happened and they're back just in the third dimension. So we don't just right now, we haven't moved in a linear fashion that you just all of a sudden you're in the fourth or the fifth and that's the only place you are. We move back and forth. And the crystal tools, I find, help you to understand better where you are, where you're moving back and forth to clean energy from both spheres, that you can integrate it better. It makes integrating things easier because there's less fear, because you're always, your frequency is higher. So you can be higher than the Wi-Fi or VLAN or the 4G, 5G coming at us. The crystal instruments help move you into a higher frequency, so that's you don't feel endangered by those that astral level, so to say. Crystals a frequency to me that's higher than that. So it's giving us the position to be able to go, okay, how can I use all of that? What can I use it for? I don't need to be frightened of it anymore. It's new technology, but how can I utilize it in a different way and to help my my vegetative body, my emotional, my mental body also just be in sync with it, and to know that I'm more than what that man-made frequency could possibly be. And the crystal instruments to me just keep you in that time set of being able to curious and experiment and to work out what your way is, that you can use it. And everyone has to find their own special way of incorporating all of those frequencies that are coming in. And even though I still, for certain things, love the metal instruments, or to put, like, you have like the minerals that you can put on top of it, but it's still sometimes a frequency if people have lots of metal in their body, from just alone what people have in their mouth teeth-wise, or if you have, depending upon if you have like an artificial shoulder or, things like that, a metal plate from a skiing accident or whatever, then if you go back into the metal world, sometimes it just, it puts people back into this being too stuck or stubborn place sometimes.
That's great. And can you share with us also the shape of, you just showed us two different shapes, the U one and the V one.
There's
What is the,
one that's kind of more like the classic one, and I would probably just, although I'm not a producer of the instruments, so maybe one of the production people is going to go, oh my gosh, what did she just say? But I think this might be the more stable form to produce in, that's maybe why it looks this way. I'm not aware that a whole lot of maybe like spiritual technology went into it. Maybe people just felt that's more, yeah, maybe it's just more one of those old kind of relic things from old symbologies or something like that, that it works. I have no idea, but I think maybe it's just more stable for them to be able to produce, because most of the tuning forks do really have, like you say, the U form like that. And when we first started producing, then we tried different shapes because we had to do like trial and error. The lady who runs and owns Sound Galaxies International, she also works with, there's Sound Galaxies in Germany and Austria. There's different dealerships that are up, and now there's people in Seattle in the US who are doing Sound Galaxies USA, and there's Sound Galaxies Japan and Russia. So that's, it's moving forward this way. But she also used to import other singing bowls and other tuning forks, and all of those were also always in the kind of like in the U shape, and some of them were a lot thicker. So when you have the difference in sizes, then for some people It's also just how heavy is something to hold. These are very light. And also how long does the vibrational frequency go. And with the crystal singing bowl, let me just get my mallet. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it because I'm not sure on my notebook how good the sound is when it comes to this. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah, we heard just a little bit, yes.
Okay, because what with the tuning forks, hit it a little bit over there. So, and it's still swinging. So with the tuning forks, what's not important is the sound. Like with the singing bowl, you want, people want to be hearing the beautiful musical aspect. So also for musicians, the singing bowls are really important. They're totally new, different type of, instrument to be integrated into different musical concepts as well, not just healing tools. That's the side effect. This is still swinging because I can feel it in my hand going through here. So they swing for, have a vibration for a very long time. And also that just helps, to loosen up the, one, if you put it on the physical body, because I like doing it laying in bed in the morning. And then I just put it down and go down, the front, the breast, and moving back. And then what's also really wonderful, you can do it with a singing bowl. You just have to, how do you position it? But with a tuning fork, it's just a little bit more filigree to be able, if I want to work here with around the, the teeth and the jawbone, or to, move it into different places this way. But also you can also use this to go in and clean off your emotional body and the mental body, and to pull the energy out so people can increase their their auric field and have the auric field cleansed in a different way. So there's lots of different opportunities how you can use the tuning forks. I like it too because it with people, it clarifies a lot really quickly when you move it like into the cranium area, so that people get clear again really quickly. So to me, it's one of the really, neat tools. And they have what they call the meridian. I don't know if you can see that. So it has the point at the bottom. So they say, like that's a lot easier if you want to go and use it on the meridians in the body. Then you can also, press in a little bit more, and then the vibration gets even stronger.
But Lisa, it's also interesting. You can use also reflexology points in your hand also.
Yeah.
Right?
So hand, and with the ear, and on the foot reflexology as well. So you can use all of those classic points as well to, to use the tuning forks with.
Because what's beautiful is that there's a company in Germany actually are using it's called Chroma Alive pen light, and they use on the reflexology point. And there's a lady who's actually a main distributor in Canada, Vancouver, who's using this technology, using light. So now we have light possibility, and then we have sound now, which you showed us. Fantastic technology we have now, the early part of the 21st century. And Lisa, can you share with us the difference between the Y shape and the U shape that you just showed us before?
Okay, so here's the Y shape. These are very light. So like if I use the mallet, whoops, I had it somewhere. Then you hear it, but they don't vibrate as long because they're because it's a lot less material. So what we worked out was that was one of the first attempts to make the crystal tuning forks ourselves, so to say, or sound galaxies to make them. And then we worked out, okay, this doesn't work because it doesn't vibrate long enough, it doesn't, and they're, they cost similar price to produce. So it was like, okay, no go, we have to try again, back to the drawing board. Then the other ones came into being that are the classical ones, like almost all companies that are selling tuning forks, it's like all, it's very similar thing, except we have the tuning forks Sound Galaxies has had two different people who make the tuning forks for us. So the tuning forks themselves are made in Germany. Rather, it's with the one production company we work with, or with another company called Detoxification, who I'll show you the singing rods that he produces. He comes from the glass blowing tradition, so he hand makes all of the tuning forks. So these, you can either tap lightly this way, so you have like a chime effect. But what's very special is down at the bottom, you have like a bulb, and I'm not sure how well you can see it. And what you do is you tap. And up on my YouTube channel, there's me working with Eric Isaac, who's Sound Galaxies USA. A year ago, we put something up where I was working with him. And what you can do is you just go in and you know, like press it, put it someplace on your body. That's the problem. I'm missing a hand now that we need to demonstrate on, unfortunately. And you can put it in, and that what you do is that you tap, you just tap down. You can tap this way and roll them on somebody's body as well. And then doing this. And it vibrates all the way through, and what it does is it goes so deep into the tissue that people also with like more chronic pain, they report at the end of the session that it's, you know, it's like relieved and gone. And just recently when I was in Spokane with my mom, she ended up having a little bit of a problem that she got a little bit over-exercised in one of her physical therapy sessions, and ended up having like a muscle spasm. So I needed to take her, she needed to see the Western medicine man, so to say. She needed to go to the, we have a really super chiropractic who actually does test some of his patients for different issues with metal tuning forks. He can hear if there's a breakage in somebody's body. So he's a really cool guy already. So he's also getting interested in crystal now. But I took her, and on the spot where she was having the pain, he took out this tool, and it looks like a drill, like really like a, you know, you would go make a hole in the wall drill, and it had, but it had a plastic point on it, and he turned it on, and it vibrated like this, in, you know, into her. He stuck it in where he thought the most stress was, and it was doing all of the vibration things, which is what the crystal instruments do. So I thought that was very interesting, you know, that now in the physical therapy occupations like that, chiropractic, they have tools out like that that they're using now, because it's all about vibration. They don't do the sound to them is not as important as the vibrational in it. And so what these do is they go down and they really go much deeper because of the sound, and somehow just the way the sound and the clicking goes, and also the frequency that it creates. It just does a much deeper, quicker release of the energy.
Well, I think also because of the crystal, it has a piezoelectric effect, right? That's how you transmit that information into the soft tissues, into the fascia. I think it's far more efficient to use the mechanical device that we use now in chiropractic offices as a way to release the muscle tension. So I think the crystals are more intelligent, or working with the crystalline fascia network by being more efficient by using sound to release that blocked trauma, whatever part of the body is. And so it's very interesting that so these are available also at Sound Galaxy. Is that correct? The Y.
That's correct.
Okay, that's awesome. And
I know we're the only ones up until now, but if they're seeing it on your station, you know, then it's the question, how long before they get copied is probably like nanoseconds. So, but up until now, we're the only ones who have those. And there's lots of different things and lots of different ways you can do it. So what's also really special too is that you can use, you could also do it with, you know, these guys that you have two forks that you work with. And then it's just a price performance issue, but that's, you know, not a problem to take two normal big other meridian tuning forks and use that too. But like here as well, you can do things because you can, you know, take and move the energy in a different way. So it's like more all around energy to be able to open the field up and move things in a different way by having, because it's a set. And also, I also find when I'm working with like around like the jaw and in this way, then it also is a different things, because a lot of times too, what we know with sound healing is sometimes you need to hear the sound of like when you had shocks for it to release. You can do lots of visualization work, and a lot of times, especially like people who have had car accidents and things like that, then they keep revisualizing and saying, okay, we take the trauma out by visualizing. But for a lot of people, the shock and trauma is still attached to a sound. So a lot of people have huge tension, you know, still in their jaw or in their system from having been at the dentist, with, you know, holes being drilled into their teeth and just other instruments that get used that way. And so this also helps to kind of like, you know, desensitize or, you know, take out those kind of also traumatic effects or memories that are there too. And then it, because it vibrates, it just relaxes in a totally different way. So people can also, you know, feel their jaw becoming softer again or more relaxed. It's not as stiff, it's not as tight. So it's also, to me, really good tools that way. And you can also, if you're, you know, tapping with somebody, you can have, you know, put their wrist in it like this and tap, and then it moves energy out as well. So there's lots of different ways, putting it somebody's like over their toes this way and moving it, or when they have problems with the heel, and you can also, you know, support the heel in here and do the tapping, and it just vibrates and swings through in a different way. So there's something that's really exciting to me.
And that can be also used for the ankle, also the ankle, so the wrist, ankle, and I was going to ask you.
You can use, of course, the normal, the meridian, which meridian always has then the point on it. And then they also have them where they're also, you know, flat. That's, they call these ones, we call them the classical ones. Yeah. That's usually most what you get in the market. So.
Well, I think it's important to remind the audience it's not just for the, like you mentioned, the meridian, but it's also for the reflexology points in the hands or in the ears also that can be used also. So it's not just meridians, but reflexology points in the hand or in the ears, which is a fantastic tool. That's really awesome. I haven't seen any tuning fork crystal that has that option. That's wonderful. And can you share with us also why using different colors for the tuning forks or the bowls, and what is there a reason why using different colors or different mixtures of elements in the coloring process for the bowls and the tuning forks? If you can share with us the reason of the colors that Sound Galaxy is using.
Okay. Since it was before we started producing the Sound Galaxies bowls, then it was always already a trend worldwide that most companies were doing something to make the bowls, we can just use the word, look more sexy, or to give them unique selling points. So you were having like the bowls being colored in the chakras, or being given other alchemy, what would you call it? Alchemy kind of assignments that they should be fulfilling. So that was kind of like people got used to, you know, the bowls having to have a little bit special color or a special meaning or whatever, instead of it just being like the clear bowl, how it, like, you know, how it was birthed, so to say. So, and are you still being able to hear me? Because my system just gave me a little bit of a thing that my loudspeaker, that you might not be able to hear me, so I'm not sure.
No, actually we hear you, but there's a little something in the background that actually is, I don't know if your Wi-Fi connection is solid. It's just something in the background we hear, but we still hear you. But it's just a little bit background noise. I don't know if your line connection is still strong, or it's. But here on my end, the connection.
The notebook fan came on a little bit. Maybe that's
okay.
it. It's not really loud, but
now we hear you clearly now. Perfect. Clearly.
Okay. Super. That's good. let's see.
So,
So when we started to do it, then we wanted to say, okay, we'll ask what the bull wants to have for his job, or for its profession, so to say, its calling, and then how to differentiate them. So we were really lucky that we were able to start working with Swarovski Austria. We're the only company worldwide that they do, somebody else's product. So I also, because I have some very good connections there, that we were able to get the business transaction set up, and then Sound Galaxies International was able to do the contracts with Swarovski here in Austria. So the bowls are finished in Austria. So we have the local market here being supported, which is really nice. And then what's really nice too,
sorry to disturb you, Lisa. We're getting little feedbacks from the sound, like a little. Just wondering if you can look at your connection, make sure that everything is fine. Because we're hearing that little thing in the background. Or from your end, is it okay? It seems everything is okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And if the only thing, if you're hearing, then it could just be the fan and the notebook. And what I can do is.
No, because I hear you. It's funny. I hear you clearly when I speak with you. Okay, I'm just gonna, because what I do is that when you speak, I mute myself. No, I have unmuted myself. So I will leave the unmute button unmute, and I'll let you continue, and that maybe will do the trick. So sorry about that. I just want to make sure that the sound is clear. Sorry.
Okay, now that's technology.
Yeah, no worries.
It has to deal with our technology being higher than their technology, probably. So.
Or the crystals,
So
maybe trying to say something to us.
Yeah. So if you, I don't know, can you see here the emblem?
Yes.
So that's hand put on by Swarovski, and nobody does, the way those stones are done that way. A lot of people try to copy them, but nobody can do it the way they do it. So they're just absolutely, gorgeously beautiful. And so let me show you another bowl inside. Whoops, just a second. So I'm not used to working with I don't know if you can have a look inside in there and see how beautiful it is. So
yes, very nice. Wow, it's like almost like indigo.
Yeah, but there's lots of orange, and there's like a rainbow on the bottom here. So they have their own special process, proprietary process that only Swarovski has. So we're very lucky to be working together with them. And so right now we have, we try to pick when a bowl's called, for example, an oxygen, then it has a lot more of like the midnight blue, some of the midnight blue color in it, and then a lot of a little bit of yellow or orange colors come into it a little bit. So we have for the topic that we kind of had, where the bowl said, okay, this is the kind of calling we see ourselves doing. So Sound Galaxies has, for example, a bowl called Oxygen. It's there to help you get more room in your life, to be able to breathe more deeply, like the spiritual geranium, to help people just take their special place in life better. Then there's one that's really spectacular. I like it. I'm a razzle dazzle girl, so I like colorful things. So the rainbow bowl is also there to bring heaven and earth together, so that people can, be in here and now in a different way, and just bring together both of those worlds, so you don't have people always trying to beam themselves someplace that's kind of like, it's okay to be here and we'll do the spiritualization of the material world here. Or there's a bowl called Presence. Presence is about being able to be here, to say, I'm here, and the present of the present is to be present. So that bowl's there to be really here and to be authentic, and to help create authenticity. It's tool to support you to be able to do that. Or there's a bowl called Sound Experience. It's there to get people to help things moving in the life. If things kind of keep getting stagnant and you move backwards instead of forwards, and you need to have like a little catalyst to move things forward, then the sound experience bowl says, okay, I'm the catalyst. Then there's a bowl that's called the journey. It's there, to help you move on your spiritual fields, to take the journey of life and make something out of it, make it special for yourself. And it could also be a bowl that people use to help, when you want to maybe go into the higher spheres, or a lot of people still work going into the underworld, which that should also be a trend that gets less and less, because we need to start calling the higher realms and stabilizing those fields. But anyway, the journey bowl is something that you can use to do those kind of travelings and to accrue the information that you need and to bring it back. And then there's a bowl called reality, which is also very important for people to be able to say, it's okay being here, and I'm not going to just be illusionary and off on all kinds of tangents and stuff like that, or I'm going to be totally, in German we call it abgehoben, they're all over the place and so little grounding, they can't manifest very well for themselves. So the reality bowl says, bring it down here, live it, be it here, now. So, and then let's see, and then the new bowl that's come out this year is called Dignity. It's also very special, it has a lot more little magenta pink tones in it than other bowls, and magenta is also one of the colors that's there for being able to live your authentic self, or the harmony. Your total protection is when you live the harmony of your true being, and magenta represents that color, for example. So there's a little bit more magenta in the bowls. Let's see, what other ones do we have? I always have to have a look. Then there's a one that's special for the US market that they've done. It's a special kind of a medicine song, it's called. And it's a clear bowl, so there's no, it's not vaporized inside to have the colors, but it has the stones like this to represent the native culture, because the distributor for the U.S., Eric Isaac, is from the Native American tribes. So hopefully it's the right words to, with the native, from the native culture. So they have a special bowl that's you can only buy in the U.S. or from the U.S. Sound Galaxies people. And they're also very beautifully done with the stones that way. So the colors are kind of, put together. What we kind of felt the topic stands for is a little bit way the bowl got vaporized. But for us, what's more important is not the coloring so much as just what the sound is and what the bowl says, it wants to have for its calling.
And I just see on your shelf this what looks like barbells with the crystal. What are those for? Can you share with us what is this being used for, and why was it created?
Okay. For a while, we were kind of looking at to see which products, or which bowls we wanted to sell and work with. And we found one of the products that one of the Chinese companies, a big company, was making. They looked like barbells. So it was clear, and you had, like a singing bowl on the top and a singing bowl on the bottom, and there was a crystal tubing in between to hold it with. And I travel so much that I said, well, it's beautiful, but who needs a case this huge, and then I've only got one thing with me and not more bowls. And so then we were able to come up with this idea. Whoops. I'll get two down. So what you can do is, this is put together inside, and there's a hole in the bottom of the bowl, and the hole makes no difference to the sound quality. And so I can detach this in-between piece and play the bowl on the floor or in my hand if I want to. Or I can play it this way. Just a second.
So it's very interesting.
I have two bowls at the same time. And so when I move them around, the tones mix and mesh totally differently. When I'm working on somebody with sound healing going over the body, of course, it makes total different field of how you move, how you disperse the old energy and bring in the new energy. I always like them that they sound good together, but if you wanted to do something to, have an edge to it so that people release differently, then you can put two together that don't quite match from the harmonics. But I love it just doing this way, and the more you turn it sometimes, then the energy just takes off on its own, and it keeps singing because it's being moved. And so what's really neat is that you can, just start with like one bowl. It's only done with a 16 or 18 centimeter bowl so that the bottom stays stable. So when I travel, I can take, the big double thing off, or take this one off and put it in, I can put a 20 bowl, an 18 and a 16, and I've got 3 bowls I always have in my hand luggage when I fly. So, and I know the bowls are safe and protected. And then I can play it just on the stick because, and I'm never sure how good the quality sounds when you play it through the computer. So if you do, if you're somebody who also does like a lot of room cleaning, going to properties or working outside, or I work with animals a lot, tuning forks, animals love the crystal tuning forks. Especially the horses. They're like my favorite clients with the crystal tuning forks. But here, you have different kinds of access, how you can, do treatment with somebody that way. And if I'm working like with a room, then I can send the energy a little bit more easily, by just moving the bowl around this way on the stick on the handle, so that you feel like you're being able to, dissolve energy in a room that's built up that needs to be dispersed and transformed. And that's also one of the things about the crystal being such a high frequency that a lot of times the energy is really 100% taken care of. Sometimes when you work like with drums and things like that, then it's like a calcium in the body, you do the massage, and it's good right now, and a couple hours or a couple days later, it builds back up to where it's used to being. And with crystal, because of the high frequency, then it helps things to really like be dissolved totally, and it doesn't form back up. And if you use sometimes different kinds of drums, or sometimes even the metal bowls, a lot of times it doesn't 100% clear the grid or the field off because it's just dispersed it, but it's because it's used to its habitual, so it's used to coming back together. And with these higher frequencies, then it really dissolves things. Like if you go in and have ultrasound done or something like that, ultrasonic, then that's the frequency it's moving things at. And what's really nice too is that when you have like this set, then there's 4 different ways to play it. You can play each one separately. You can play them, on standalone on the floor in a set. You can play it, and you can turn each bowl facing this way, so to say. And it makes a totally different therapeutic sound when you're working with somebody, how it cleanses or grounds somebody. I can put that bowl that way, makes a totally different sound quality again. And the one I have here is long enough so I can have the bowls facing each other without having to worry about them like imploding, because it's the sound bounces off each other. So this is what it kind of looks like when you turn it in the other direction. It looks a little bit like a.
Can I actually do a sound demo with this one here, please?
This one? Uh-huh. Can you still hear it?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yes, yes.
Because they're both still singing. And a lot of times when it goes into the non-hearable reach, the frequency is even higher. So it's still doing its thing, but it's still here. If you were holding it, it's still really powerful and loud, but very gentle, soft. So that's also something special that Sound Galaxies has, that up until now, there's nobody else who's been making them that way. When you have the normal practitioners, because this kind of concept this way is called practitioner. I think from the English word, that when you're the healer, so to say, you're a practitioner. So that's why these were called practitioners originally. So it's a really special way to be able to facilitate the energy, moving, and to be able to do it in all different kinds of directions. Because also, like with these, then it's really easy for me to have, to have somebody's foot. I can, when they're lying on the massage table, then I can, put it in. I can put their hands in it this way. When they're laying there, it's just more convenient for the person who's getting the treatment then to be able to lay there, and you can do it. And also there's vibration also goes through the what you're holding, so you can also theoretically hold it on somebody too, and then you have the vibration going through that way as well.
You can actually put it on if someone's laying on a massage table, you can put over the head also, right?
Yeah, it's too small, it's not, they're too small, but you can hold it really close to the head and move it that way. And also when somebody's sitting, you can also do it, and you can roll it like this, and you can also use it with your voice and have your voice rolling over the singing bowl as well. So there's lots of different ways to be able to use it as a super good tool. And what's just neat is that, when you take it off the stick here, then it's really easy to pack in a normal case, and to take it with you. You don't have to have a huge case where you just get one bowl in it. So that's one of the nice aspects to that way.
And Lisa, can you share some experience that you have with some of your clients using the dumbbell singing bowl approach compared to the traditional bowl? What different experiences your clients have had when you use the dumbbell approach versus use a single bowl? Have you noticed something different?
Well, I think both are really effective, but sometimes here because you can if you're holding the normal singing bowl, then the sound's always going like up this way. And if you have a smaller one and you can hold it, then you can maybe get a little bit of an angle in, like if they're laying down. If they're sitting up, you can angle it maybe a little bit more when you're moving it up and down. But this just gives you the total flexibility to like, you know, shovel in a different way. With the normal singing bowl, you have to feel very secure and safe with your bowl to kind of like do weird kind of movements with it and keep the sound going. And this way, what's neat too is that what makes a difference is that I can also, you know, if I get it going and I'm playing it and it's singing, then I have one hand, you know, free in a different way. I'm not worried something's going to happen to the bowl, and can do also other kinds of mechanical things, you know, on the client, you know, to help support or move the energy. But I also like that, you know, just the being able to have the feeling that you can shovel things, and just you can get it up closer, or it's more playful somehow because you have the bell part, you know, being more interactive with the client that way. From the healing success, to me, they're probably comparable. No, I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to only get a laugh because I won't be able to say it properly. They're comparable to each other. It's, you know, it's everybody's different. Some people like to have like a bigger bowl, you know, being run over their system or run through their system. For some people, sometimes the smaller bowls, like the 16 centimeters, they can have a higher pitch. That's not comfortable for everybody. And that's always the thing that's really interesting to me. And some of the markets, the smaller bowls sell better. It's not just like a price thematic, you know, because the smaller bowls are less expensive. But a lot of people prefer then to have the 16, 18, 20 centimeter bowls. And then there's other cultures. They want the 24, 26, 30. They need the big bowls. So that's always different. And the bigger bowls, of course, have a deeper sound the way they're made. And so a lot of times I found a lot of men, they love the bigger, deeper sounding bowls. I don't want to generalize that way, but at least my German, Austrian clients, then a lot of the men, they prefer the big 30 centimeter, 24, 26, 30, the deeper sounds. And a lot of women, that really bothers them. They have this deep sound. They like the little tiny ping kind of sound like that. And the men kind of go, go away. You know, it's too high pitched. So it's a culture thing sometimes with the size. And also that then with the issue too, you know, who likes the really high pitched bowls, who likes low pitched bowls, and it's all very individualistic then. Because the most important part is not what it looks like, it's, you know, what attracts you from the whole dynamic of the bowl, plus the sound that's there, you know, is that my frequency, is that the tone and the overtone and the undertones. And that's also the interesting thing, is giving 5 different people the same bowl to play, and it plays differently for everybody. So I think that's exciting too, is that it brings us back to each one of us is here to do something different, and the bowl showing you that each one of us, it's gonna play differently for us because each one of us has something different to experience with it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I was just going to ask you, before going to your website and showing the people your website, I just have one last question about of all the bowls that you have, of course, a different price range, different sizes, and everybody has a different wallet, a different amount of money they can. And so basically, what would you recommend for someone who would like to start, let's say, like a starter kit or a starter bowl that you recommend as something for someone to start with, to explore? And is there something you may recommend people, or do we need them to physically visit a store themselves, or is it something that you can recommend from your site as one bowl they can start, let's say, their own bowl or something like that they can start exploring and see how they feel with it? Can you share with us how would you recommend people the approach of selecting a bowl, or what would you recommend as a starter bowl, if there's any such thing as a starter bowl?
Okay. There's probably, at least in my opinion, there's not such a thing as a starter bowl. If somebody has you know, if it's a piggy bank problem, which is what I always call it, you know, how much is in your piggy bank right now, and what have you saved up for? What is your possibility? And maybe I'm a bad salesperson this way, but I know there's company and people out there that rather the people can afford it right now or not, then they always try to sell them 3 or 5 bowls. I mean, it sounds really wonderful if you can do that. And they also provide maybe the possibility for taking out a loan to be able to finance the bowls. I'm not a big, I don't support that so much. I think it's the bowls open up for you to be coming into a different level of your own kind of spiritual and geld money wealth when you start using the bowls, because you're being more conscious of who you are and you're opening up to your true flow again. So I find a lot of people, at least with my clients, it's this way, that when they buy one bowl, that it's usually easy for them to keep being able to manifest, to get brothers and sisters, so to say, to go with their sets. I'm always excited for everybody who can do 3 bowls or 5 bowls at one go. And a lot of times from the ease to play a bowl, if it's like a price question, then an 18 centimeter bowl is just less. And I won't go into any pricing now because it's different, the US to the euro to the yen or all the other currencies. So it doesn't make sense to, say any prices that they're all up on the website. And what I do with a lot of people that I know is that I can do like a little messenger or a Zoom conference with somebody, and then they can experience the bowls here and see if it's the bowl they like. Then it's really easy to ship it to them. And so I do that quite often within the sales things. The 18 centimeter bowls, if it's a smaller question, the 18 and 20 centimeter bowl is easier to play than maybe a 16. You have to practice more. So if you have no experience, the larger the bowl, the easier it is to usually play. But I always find like an 18 centimeter bowl for people, it's a really good starting point. It's a good price performance. And then you can see if you want to have it, take it with that you have the practitioner handle to go with it, or if you just, want the bowl initially. But then the bowls have the hole already pre-drilled in them. So at some point, if you want to expand and you can do 2 18 bowls together or a 16 and an 18, then you're flexible for that.
So the one that you have right now, is that an 18 centimeter, the one you have right now?
18 centimeter, and it's also a bee-like boy.
Okay. So it's actually good for cleansing, right? Detoxing, cleansing. And for Westerners or North Americans, would you know what represents in inches?
Let's see, 1 centimeter.
So basically you're saying that 18 centimeters.
Probably about a 7 centimeter bowl.
Yeah, it's actually a 7-inch bowl, right? Okay, 7-inch bowl. Okay, so 18 centimeters, 7-inch. And 20 centimeter would be a 7.8, and 24 centimeter would be a 9.4 inch. Okay, so different inches for different, but the 18 centimeter 7-inch would be a good starting point. And then
if somebody can really, if they can, if they have the financial, standing to do it, then, the bigger the bowl, the different kind of sound quality you have. So if somebody's saying, okay, maybe I'm only going to ever want to buy one bowl, then for that person, it could make sense to start already with a 24 or a 26 or a 30 centimeter bowl, for example, just so that you can have heard one of those. And so
just so the audience know that 30 centimeters is 11.8 inches. So just that you know, 30 centimeters, 11.8 inches. So almost 12 inches.
Okay.
So the one that you have right now is a 30 centimeter?
30 centimeter.
Or 12 inch.
Yep. So it's an E. It's a E from the sound.
So you do with a mallet. Is it different with a mallet than using a?
Yep. Oops. Have to see. Might jump a little bit. So sometimes it brings out more higher, so you get more deep and more high. It also makes a difference if you play more high or more low. I don't know how nice it sounds. Here it's beautiful. And then, of course, with the bigger bowl, then it usually, vibrates a lot longer. You hear it a lot longer, a lot stronger. I don't know if you can see inside this one. Oops, how did I? It's beautiful inside. It's the razzle dazzle. It's the dignity.
Very nice and beautiful bowls, really. And I was going to mention also for those who like to have a meditative practice or self-centric practice. I mean, these bowls are great also to bring the brain waves from beta to alpha to theta, which is the meditative state. So these are good tools to assist meditators or people who want to center themselves. This is fantastic tools also to use.
And what's also really special too is because over the last years, there's always been a lot of focus that it's like, and I think some people have become a little bit turned off with the bowls because it's always a little bit too esoteric. But what's really important is for musicians, these are wonderful. I play with a person. She's a harp player. And it goes really super well, the crystal singing bowl with somebody playing the harp and you play together. Or also if you have somebody who's a guitar player to play the singing bowls with that. So also in the normal musician field, it would also be so important that more musicians start opening up to the crystal instruments as well. To use the chimes or bells, or I'd like to show you still the little crystal rods that Dieter Schrader has made, because they're also a really great tool to use and have. But it's, it'd be so important too that the musician world opens up more, not just the spas and the wellness and the salt baths and things like that, but the whole wellness movement, but also moving it back into the musical field as well, because it's really a tool, for now when for orchestras, to be able to go out and to be able to reach the next generation as well.
But it's funny that you mentioned about the crystal instruments, because there's a gentleman in Quebec, Canada, who actually created the crystal harp. He's one of the best manufacturer on the planet. He's selling them all over Europe.
I sell those as well.
Yeah, his name is it's mycrystal.com, which he actually has a funny, his property, he discovered a crystal quartz on his property, and he was able to manufacture. So it's not just that he has the mining facility on his property, but he fabricates them from scratch. So fantastic. It's interesting that you mentioned that, I think we're entering to the age of crystal, right? All this is coming back to us, right? The importance, the efficacy of using crystal, affecting the fascia crystal network, which we understand more and more now, how it transmits information, how water transmits information, right? So it's a wonderful time to be part of all of this. And I'd like to thank you for sharing all the information. Can we take some time to go over your site so viewers can see what you have to offer? So what I'll do is I'll share a screen, and if you can walk me through it, and we can share your website. So I will share my screen with the audience. and then we can walk through your website. Is that okay?
That sounds good.
Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna share the screen right now, and I'll pull up your website here. Hold on.
That's lovely. Thank you much.
No problem. Here we go. So this is your lisafarmer.com.
Yep.
And of course, it's in German. That's fine. And
coming in English.
yes, that's great. So here's all in German, and she has an app. She has blogs, seminars, online. And but what we show you here is what she has in English here on the top right. It's called Crystal Sound Balance. Let's click here.
And the crystal sound balancing are actually processes that I've done because, like I said, I come from management, originally semiconductor computer company. And so what I've created with the crystal sound balancing journeys, as I call them, it's different processes that are set up that you use the crystal singing instruments to do the processes with. And so there's like the way of the hero, or releasing from the mother's breath, and there are 7-step programs where you use the instruments to facilitate moving into each level of healing, because all of the fairy tales are based on 7. So the way the hero needs to go to become into his full potential is using a 7-step program. So that's what the crystal sound balancing, a lot of it is. Now you're being able to see some pictures of the Sound Galaxy's singing bowls. So the 0, it looks like Google's done a good job with the translations. The presence bowl. And then the loop is a very beautiful bowl for people who want also this higher quality of spiritual energy, because it helps people stop turning around in a circle, and it helps move them into their own natural organic spiral energy.
So just that the audience understands that all the different bowls that you have here, is it all using the same crystal quartz? And so basically you're just using the color to symbolize it as being a loop or being a presence or being a 0. Is that correct? The color is what's, okay, great. And then we have the Clara. And very gorgeous. I mean, really beautiful piece of art, if you want to put beautiful.
Yeah, they are. And it's interesting, at Swarovski, when they do the vaporizing, it depends who's on the vaporizing pult the day that the bowls get made, because they all have their own kind of style as to how they do the mixing at the end of the day. And so they always have a little bit of variance. So every bowl is always a one-off. There's no 2 bowls that are the same. So that's also something that I love about them too, is that each one is totally unique.
And now we can go to the tuning forks that you talked about, that you showed with us here. That's offered at Sound Galaxy here.
Yep. So you can get them in all of the colors. It's just a question of what the delivery time is. But you can get each of the tuning forks also in the same themes as the singing bowls. So if somebody wants to have a Genesis Helix, that's more of a grayish silver color, then it's possible to have it done in that color. Or if you want it done in a presence or a sound experience coloring, it's more of the warm amber peach colored tuning forks. So that's just a couple of examples that are there. So you can have the tuning forks as well.
So basically, the tuning forks can they, for example, buy the Meridian tuning fork, but having a certain color with it? Is that possible also?
Yep.
Okay.
They just have to say, okay, we'd like to have the rainbow coloring or the presence coloring, and then that's possible to have it done.
Okay, that's great. And here you have also what on your website you offer. Is that the one from Quebec that you guys are offering?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
So this is
But
from,
he's wonderful. So I can say to you, because he also has the lyra. I think
yes,
the lyra is from the beautiful shape as well. I think right now I just have the harp up there.
yeah,
Um, but that's one of the things that's too, he's very special. It was his idea. There's so many people out there plagiarizing his
yes,
beautiful products. So all I can say to, you know, people who are watching your show and watching us, it's so important to be able to support these pioneers that have done things originally. Because it was really so much of their life plan to get those things up and going. So I
yes.
always appreciate when people buy the originals.
Yes, and this is once again mycrystal.com from Quebec, Canada, and sonicgalaxy.com. Two wonderful companies that are from the heart that want to co-create with humanity. So if you guys, it would be a nice place to get the crystal harp, or singing bowls, or crystal tuning forks at sonicgalaxy.com or Mike Crystal, or even here at the website you can obtain here if you're in Europe. You can get there, she can ship them to you. And you also, I see you offer some seminars. So do you offer people training to become practitioners in this field of sound bowl or?
Well, to me, it's a total sound healing system. So it's right now it's 5 modules. If I were to do it, you know, someplace else and like, you know, to bring it to the US or Canada, and it's easier to put like 2 modules together that you have a 4-day seminar instead of, you know, just weekends. Because I always would have to see, you know, how to fly back and forth. But people come here and can do it too. But it's the Aura Sound seminar is 5 different modules. So the first weekend, or you can book, except for the last seminar, which is the closure and the licensing and the certification process. Then you can variate, you know, in which succession you want to do the individual trainings. And if you don't want a certificate, then you're welcome just to take, like, you know, work with 1 module. So I have the crystal singing instruments, the singing bowls, the tuning forks, the rods using the lyra and the harp, and I have some other crystal instruments here. So that's 1 weekend seminar to learn how do you use crystal, what's the difference, how to make the most of the instruments and to be able to use it. I have the frosted singing bowls in there because there's certain things like you can you know, do with the frosted singing bowls, with making also pictures for people in the singing bowls by making waves and putting color in. So there's lots of playful things to do. So I just teach crystal. And then there's a 2-day training module that's about working with the 5 elements and all of the different instruments that work back into the elements. But also each of the singing bowls also represents a different element. You know, if I want something earthy, then it's the Genesis Helix. If I want something that's more, you know, with the air element, then I have an oxygen bowl. So I also use the singing bowls there, but I use lots of really modern instruments to show what the 5 elements and how they work together. And if somebody needs more of one element or less of one element, or to how to stabilize somebody's field. So it's also working with a little bit of the TCM element structure.
So this,
Then
so it's just like your website is showing now. I mean, in that formation to become a practitioner, you teach everything from treatment options to contraindication, client record keeping, bowl care. I mean, like you just mentioned, the types of crystal bowls and wands being used, using soul energy, the aura, the chakras. I mean, it's just fully encompassing training for and so do you offer, like, so if I understand correctly, it's a 4-day full training to become to go? Is that the number of days people get to devote if they want to come to your training?
Okay. No, it's a total of 2, 4, 6, 8. It's a total of 13 days.
Mhm.
And it's 2 days crystal, 2 days of the 5 elements, 2 days only using your voice. I work with a friend of mine who's an opera singer, and we work with a very interesting, you might want to ask me back for another one to talk about alusology, which is active lunar and solar breather types. So we work with that to open somebody's voice, and then I teach how do you use your voice for sound healing. So you don't have any instruments, you just use your voice to do sound healing. And then there's a 2-day seminar to learn how to do the conflict management, the mediation work, and the family constellation, only using instruments and no talking. And then there's the 5-day close-off seminar where we go into how do I work with hospice. I think that's what you call it in English too. You know, when people are dying, hospice. I always get it.
That's correct. Auspices.
Say it more German than English. So hospice. Then also, how do you work with people who are in the dementia or Alzheimer consciousness fields? There's a whole lot you can do with sound healing and music to get them more clear than they are, and sometimes to really facilitate that they really re-engage and are, you know, interactive again. And then there's just everybody that wants to have a certificate also gets to present their own sound project. So some people do sound and yoga, or sound and essential oil therapy, or sound and a certain kind of massage. So everybody gets to be really creative for their close-off project to be able to have the certification. So it's a total 13 days. But in my European structure, it works well to have, you know, 4 times 2 days and 1 times the 5-day. But
I was going to say, it's something that you may probably try to offer a difference, because I think for most people traveling, it's a big cost also traveling from one continent to another, and then the lodging aspect and food aspect. Is it possible in a future training that you may offer, like maybe 2 modules and having them just travel twice, or maybe come to North America and offer? Is that a possibility in the future that you may probably offer? As this gets more and more popular, people start understanding the benefits of becoming a sound healing practitioner using sound balls. Is that something you foresee maybe in the future, of redesigning your curriculum in a sense to so we can reach more people, have more practitioners to be of service to humanity?
yep, I'm working on that right now, but it's also, you know, it would be really wonderful if there's, you know, people listening who say they could like host me. That's always easier than me trying to set something up in the US and seeing who turns up right at this stage. So if there's somebody there who says, okay, I'd like to be more in touch, and how could we work together? How could they, you know, host me to come over? Then that would be really fantastic. And what I do here sometimes too is, because these are things are really nice for like a vacation. So have educational, be in a nice location, be able to do the work, but then also be able to, you know, enjoy wherever you are. And so I do lots of times like the crystal and the 5 element. So I do it 4 days so that, you know, people have just one travel that way. The voice and the mediation works really good together, or voice and crystal works really good together. So it's possible, you know, to put things together a little bit so that not everybody, so that we don't all have that much traveling, that it's more compact.
Actually, I have an idea. I'll talk to you off air about which location, which is very interesting. We can share with the audience. And well, it was such a wonderful show. I mean, so much information. I hope the audience appreciated all that wonderful information to share with us. Just before leaving, do you have anything that you'd like to share with the audience that we haven't covered that you'd like to share, or a closing statement before we leave?
Okay, well, if it's possible, because it's something that I'm really excited about, because it's also the person who makes the tuning forks for me right now. And he's also the one who's been importing the products from Quebec so that they're available here in Europe. And he also, he was the original one to make the little crystal pyramids. And unfortunately, his patent got stolen and misused. But he's also very creative. And what he's come up with is it's made with one of the oldest woods. And it's all handmade. And he has 3 different variations, and they're called crystal singing rods. They're also up on my website, and they're also lovely. So they come in, he has a couple that are made with 3, it's all handmade, also the 99.992% SO2 quartz. Then there's one this one's pretty peepsy. And there's another one that I had a seminar at the weekend, so I'm sold out of them. It's for the binaural. So he also has one that's 432 and 442 hertz in the same setting. So that also helps to get people really back in shape really quickly. And then he has ones that are done with the tone scale. And also, again, he does work with planetary tones. So I don't know how well you hear it, but they're very nice too when I travel because they're so tiny. You know, you always have one in the glove compartment or in your purse. They work really well.
And these are available on your website, right? Under the product section, is that correct?
Yeah, they should be in the product section.
Okay.
On the German side, they're there.
Okay.
I was using them on the English side.
Can we just share it with the audience? I'm going to go back on your website just to make sure we can see it. Let's just share the screen here and see if we can locate.
And I'm also in the process of having all of the tone tracks loaded. So if you go to products.
Yes, and then we're on the products now, tuning forks.
And otherwise, if you go to the, maybe take it off English and go back to German.
Okay.
Yes.
And just go
then there's the crystal singing rods. They're over to the left.
Okay, so that's where I need to click on? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay.
So there you go. So you have the, there, and up on my YouTube, I have a little bit of them up with the sound, but I'm also in the process of having all of the individual tones played back up onto the website. So
okay,
that hear them.
And this will eventually be offered in the English portion of your website eventually. Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there's the little video demo. Okay. Great.
Yeah, demo there. And so for anybody who's also interested, Sound Galaxies, it's going to be, and the crystal rods and the tuning forks, they're going to be represented at the Tucson Gem Fair, which is the last week of January, I think, and February in Tucson. I think it's the biggest gem fair show in the world. So the singing bowls are going to be presented there again as well. So if somebody is interested, then Tucson's also a place to be.
That'd be nice. That'd be very nice. It'd be nice if you and the gentleman from Quebec can organize a workshop at his place in beautiful Eastern Township, Quebec, Canada, which I'm originally born from. I'm born in Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Montreal, but now I live in Vancouver. But yeah, there'd be something we can maybe co-create. I can send an email, see what we can come up with. You know, it's time to come together. It's time to have wonderful training facilities for people in wonderful areas. So yeah, that can be a possibility. That's really amazing. And well, thank you so much. I mean, it's such a wonderful presentation. Thank you for sharing all that knowledge. And I'd like to invite you a second time if you want in the future to talk more about voice therapy, about sound that you just talked about a few minutes ago. But is there any closing statement that you'd like to share with the audience just before we leave?
Trust yourselves, sound is a part of us. It's so integral part of who we are. And we've always used sound to do all different kinds of things for ourselves with. And especially when we're young, we just go out and do it. If something hurts us, then we scream and we shout and we move and we shake, and we do all of the vibrational medicine things that are going on, and don't let that be taken from you. Find your voice, find your instrument. It's wonderful to find the singing bowl, crystal singing bowl, and the other crystal instruments that support you, and always re-recognizing who you are, but also being able to move into the space of constantly surprising yourself of who you're moving to and who you keep. Every morning when you wake up, every time you breathe, you're here, and there's something special that you still want to experience and gift the world with. So thank you for letting me into your lives tonight or today, whenever you see this, and the wonderful work with you, Francois. For me, it's so special to be in touch this way, and it's such a special time for all of us. There's so much we can do, and we're here to do it, and we're here to do something that we haven't done before on this planet. And so I'm so looking forward to being together with all of you that are pioneers, and who are willing to take that space and give it soul and depth and feeling and crystallize. And I'm looking forward to being a part of this with all of you that are watching us.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's time for us to co-create new ways of doing things on this planet that's never been done. Bringing from the higher realms to the lower realms, and to create reality that we all wish to co-create. So let's continue on this journey. And Lisa Farmer, thank you so much for partaking in this. And I'd like to thank the audience for listening, to share this information. So until next time, I'd like to wish you a beautiful evening, beautiful day, wherever you are. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.